gap in history, and I'm trying to understand where were the Asian and Hispanic kids during the segregation era?
The short answer, we were basically banned from the country, and I'm going to try to see if I can give you a quick overview. Because there was the Page Act in 1875, which basically created these really high bars for Asian women to immigrate into this country, or pretty much made it impossible. Then, of course, you had the Chinese Exclusion Act, which basically banned any Chinese from America. Of course, there are some exceptions, most notably the Lo Mein loophole. Then you had the Immigration Act of 1917, which basically banned all immigration from Asia except for Japan and the Philippines, as the Philippines was an American colony at the time. And finally, you had the Johnson-Reed Act, which basically banned any immigration from Japan and set quota limits on immigration. The Chinese Exclusion Act was only repealed in 1943 because the US wanted to make allies with China over Japan during World War II, and many Asians were not granted citizenship unless they were born here, as directed by Birthright Citizenship and Wong Kim Ark. And yeah, Asians were not granted citizenship until about 1954 and till 1964, as we have the immigration policies that we have today. And a lot of Asian American history is just not talked about. For instance, this is Amador de Cota. He's Chinese. He fought in the army in the Civil War. There's also this man, Joseph L. Pierce, a Chinese man who fought with the U.S. Army during the Civil War, most notably Gettysburg. There was also Tong Ki Hang, who was in the U.S. Navy during the Civil War and was later stripped of his U.S. citizenship. But what a lot of high school history books don't cover is that a lot of Chinese labor actually helped reconstruct the South, where the South came up with a plan to entice Chinese laborers to help rebuild, most notably the one being the Mississippi Delta Chinese, where grocery stores, laundromats, cafes were all opening in Chinatowns in the South. And also during this time period, you had Chinatowns being burned, massacres, after massacres, and lots of discrimination, to the point where California actually wrote anti-Chinese legislation into their constitution in 1879. Remember, Asian women were pretty much banned from America, and Asian men couldn't really start families because you had interracial marriage bans by states, and you had also this federal law, the Expatriate Act of 1907, which would strip any woman of their citizenship if they were to marry an Asian man. And we have had our battles, such as Yick Wo v. Hopkins, which basically enforced the Equal Protection Clause to non-citizens. There was Wong Kim Ark, which I have done many videos on, which basically enforced birthright citizenship. There was also People v. Hall, which stated that Asians could not testify against white citizens. There was Lum v. Rice, which would be a precursor to Brown versus the Board of Education, but the Supreme Court ruled in favor of discrimination. There was also Henry Oyama, which would have gone to the Supreme Court before Loving v. Virginia, but Arizona actually legalized interracial marriages, so this lawsuit became null and void. I was trying to keep it short, but it didn't happen. But if you want to learn more about Asian American history, I do have a playlist here, and I try to do Asian American history every Asian American Heritage Month.